Blizzard designer Leonard Boyarsky talks to Gamasutra about the process of expanding the Diablo universe significantly with the third installment of the series, talking about what has both worked and what has not. Tackling mammoth expectations while building a world for a highly anticipated sequel would be daunting for most game designers. Thankfully, Leonard Boyarsky is not just any designer. With nearly 20 years in the industry, Boyarsky's career encompasses several PC cult classics, including art direction for Fallout and Fallout 2 at Interplay, as well as Arcanum and Vampire: The Masquerade Bloodlines during his helm as CEO and co-founder of Troika Games. After Troika's demise, Boyarsky joined Blizzard in 2006, where he has been hard at work as Diablo's game world designer. He has integrated his years of know-how into crafting a game that evokes the feel of its predecessors, while driving a more plot-focused experience. In this interview, Boyarsky details the experience of working on a title with lofty expectations, infusing Diablo III with more backstory, and scrapped iterations of the game on its long journey from concept to product. What's challenging about going from wholesale crafting an aesthetic, as you did in Fallout, to working within a certain set of expectations? Leonard Boyarsky: well, it's really just interesting to come in and work with an established franchise, but a lot of the process is the same. Trying to find interesting ways to explore the story, to develop the universe. I think the most interesting thing about the Diablo universe is just that there's so much richness to it that had not been really explored. So, I think that's the way I approached it, looking at what we could do with this universe that really has not been exploited. VP of Creative Development, Chris Metzen, was really on board with that because he really had a lot of ideas and a lot of things that he wanted to see in the series that had not been brought to the forefront. So, it's been a very creative process. It's been very challenging but enriching at the same time. Can you provide some examples of elements within the Diablo lore in which there were gaps for you to expand upon? Well, I think they had a lot of ideas, like Chris was talking about during the Diablo III presentation preceding this interview, the battle between heaven and hell, and all that stuff, where they kind of touched on some of that stuff, but they did not really explore it. A perfect example is like Deckard Cain. You know, he identified your items, and he threw out a bit of lore you in the first two games. But you know, we have give him this extra depth that we feel like he should have been able to see if he had taken the Horadric teaching a little more seriously earlier on. He could have avoided what happened during Diablo, kind of giving him a little more depth as a character, we feel, and it's a different time in terms of game making. You know, we want the characters to be deeper. We want them to have more realistic motivations. I guess you, say, have reasons for what they are doing, and feel like they have a background and history to them. In your long career of working on different franchises, from Fallout to working with Vampire: The Masquerade, you have definitely dealt with very passionate, vocal fans. Would you say that's given you thicker skin for coming into Diablo III? Pound laughs. Yes, you would definitely have to have thick skin, because there's always going to be people who do not like what you have done, are objecting to your latest decisions. So, you get used to it after a while. Try not to take it too personally. It's a double-edged sword, because it's very helpful to hear what people have to say, how people see things, and what people want to see from a franchise. Whether it's one that you created, or whether it's one that you are carrying on. It's not to say that we always have to blindly follow what the fans want. but it's nice to know what the fans are looking for, if that makes sense. It's important to know what people are expecting, what people are looking for, the questions that they feel that they need to have answers to. Because if you do not deliver on at least some of those things, then you have kind of failed. The Academy of Interactive Arts Sciences, AIAS, and the Entertainment Software Association, ASO, announced that the annual Into the Pixel video game art exhibit is now accepting submissions for its 16th collection. As explained in a press release, the 2019 Into the Pixel collection will premiere at this year's E3, taking place in Los Angeles from June 11th to the 13th. Video game artists and developers interested in submitting their in-game concept art, including character, environmental landscape or other artwork used in the creation of games. A consideration can do so here until Monday, April 29th.
2019
Jurists for the collection include industry veterans, Nora Dolan, Independent, Matt Hall, Zynga Rising Tide Games, Patricia Lanza, Independent, Jane Elf, Glenn Phillips, Getty Institute, Rafei, Big Red Button Entertainment, and Seth Spaudling, Blizzard Entertainment. It's worth noting that selected works chosen to be included in the collection will be auctioned off on a day week of E3, with proceeds benefiting the AIAS Foundation. And as a foundation, Amy Hennig discusses how single-player games are not dead. There's a growing concern among developers and players that single-player experiences might be left behind in favor of live games. But game designer Amy Hennig discussed how that might be avoided during a recent interview with VentureBeat. Hennig is best known for her work on Legacy of Kain and the Uncharted games, where she developed and fleshed out characters layered and flawed. According to her, writing something that's simpler and more two-dimensional feels dated. When it comes to speculating about the future of single-player campaigns, with a linear story and an interesting cast of characters, Hennig is not worried. She writes off the single-player is dead notion and explains that they are just becoming harder to pitch. I do not think anybody would say single-player is dead. Look at the current crop of games. It's just a harder and harder proposition, she says. So why is it becoming more difficult? Time and expectations. According to Hennig, we used to make games in a year. Jak III we made in a year. Uncharted took 3, because we had to build the whole engine, she explains. Uncharted 2 and 3 both took 2 years each. That's unheard of anymore. 3 years is short. Right now you can already see that's a lot more expensive than it used to be. A lot of games are taking for around 5 years, sometimes more. Teams are bigger, the fidelity is higher. There is an apparent requirement, whether it's coming from publishers themselves, or players or whatever, that games have more features and are bigger. As Hennig has said before, she believes that if the FIRSTUNCH and TEDGAME were pitched today, it most likely would not be greenlit. The idea of a finite-ish hour experience that has no second modes, no online, the only replayability was the fact that you could unlock cheats and stuff like that. No multiplayer, nothing. That does not fly anymore. But single-player games have something special that live games struggle with, Hennig says, and that's story. All of those things I do not know the word I am looking for, but they play less nicely with story. They are less conducive to traditional storytelling, she says. That has a shape and an arcade destination. At end, a game that is a live service that continues does not. Be sure to read the entire piece over at VentureBeat, where Hennig also talks about literary Easter eggs, her work on the Uncharted series, and more. It's definitely worth the read. THQ Nordic claims the controversial decision to yank Metro Exodus from Steam and launch it as a timed exclusive on the Epic Games Store was made entirely by Koch Media, which owns the Metro game property. Although THQ Nordic owns both Koch Media and its publishing division Deep Silver, THQ Nordic explained the decision to publish Metro Exodus as a timed Epic Store exclusive was made entirely on Koch Media's side, as Metro is their intellectual property. Read the tweet from THQ Nordic. They are a sister company of THQ Nordic Vienna, which is the reason why we can and will not comment on this matter. While the deal itself is notable as being the second big-name title Epic has pushed from Steam in recent weeks, it's interesting to see Koch's parent company distance itself from the move. We do not want to categorically exclude the possibility of timed exclusives of any of our games in the future,